There is something that billions of people around the world do every single day without thinking twice about it. They wash their clothes, carry them outside, and hang them on a line to dry in the sun and the wind. Free, zero electricity. Works perfectly. In Mexico, clothes dry on every balcony and rooftop. In Italy, laundry hangs between buildings like flags. In Japan, futons air on railings every morning. In China, bamboo poles loaded with clothes extend from apartment windows across entire city blocks. In America, it is effectively banned. Not officially, everywhere, but in hundreds of millions of American homes, hanging laundry outside is either explicitly prohibited by the rules of the community you live in or so socially unacceptable that most Americans would never consider doing it. The electric clothes dryer, a machine that uses more energy than almost any other appliance in the home, is not just common in America, it is considered a basic necessity. And the humble clothesline is considered something else entirely. Today we are going to find out exactly why. Because this story is not really about laundry. It is about class, control, conformity, and one of the strangest cultural attitudes in the modern world. Let us start with the numbers, because they are genuinely staggering. Approximately 80% of American homes own a clothes dryer. The United States and Canada are the only countries on Earth where dryer ownership is that high. In Europe, dryer ownership sits around 40%. In most of Asia, South America, and Africa, it is in the single digits, not because people cannot afford dryers, but because hanging clothes outside is simply what you do. American clothes dryers collectively consume around 9% of all residential electricity use in the country, roughly 108 billion kilowatt hours every single year. The average American household spends between $100 and $200 a year just running their dryer, spent on a machine doing something that a piece of string stretched between two poles accomplishes equally well, for free, every single time. So why? Why does the wealthiest country in human history spend billions of dollars a year running electric machines to do something the sun and wind do for nothing? The answer has 4 layers, and every one of them is fascinating. The first layer is legal, and more widespread than most Americans realize. Homeowners Associations, HOAs, govern approximately 74 million Americans. That is more than 20% of the entire United States population, living under the rules of a private organization that controls what their neighborhood looks like. HOAs set rules about paint colors, lawn height, fence types, and, in a huge number of cases, outdoor clotheslines. The most common stated reason for banning clotheslines is that they are aesthetically unpleasant. They lower property values. They make the neighborhood look poor, and that word, poor, is the key to understanding everything. In American suburban culture, a clothesline is not seen as a practical tool. It is seen as a signal that you cannot afford a dryer, a signal that you are lower class, a signal that you do not belong in this neighborhood. That attitude did not come from nowhere, it was manufactured. The second layer is the 1950s, and an appliance industry that had a very specific financial interest in what your backyard looked like. When electric clothes dryers became widely available to American households in the post-war boom of the late 1940s and 1950s, appliance manufacturers, Whirlpool, Maytag, General Electric, did something brilliant and ruthless. They sold the dryer not just as a convenience, they sold it as a symbol. Magazine advertisements, television commercials, and home design features consistently showed aspirational American homes with gleaming modern laundry rooms and zero outdoor drying. The cultural message was deliberate and consistent. The clothesline is what people use when they have no choice. The dryer is what successful people use. The dryer means you made it. The clothesline, by contrast, was reframed as the old world, as poverty, as something your immigrant grandparents did because they had no alternative. The American dream, as sold in every home appliance ad of that era, came with a washer, a dryer, a 2-car garage, and absolutely no laundry visible from the street. And it worked. An entire generation of Americans absorbed the idea that the clothesline was shameful and built their neighborhoods, their HOA rules, and their cultural expectations around keeping it out of sight. The third layer is suburban architecture, because once the infrastructure disappears, the habit dies with it. American suburbs built in the post-war decades were designed around the assumption of the dryer. Laundry rooms were placed inside the home. No exterior drying hooks, no purpose-built lines, no communal drying areas. The architecture physically removed the possibility of outdoor drying from the default design of the American home. Compare this to how housing is designed almost everywhere else. Apartments in Japan include a dedicated outdoor drying space as a standard feature of the floor plan. Buildings across southern Europe have balconies oriented for maximum afternoon sun, specifically because drying laundry is assumed as part of daily life. In many South Asian cities, rooftop drying areas are built into every residential block. When you design a home around the dryer, outdoor drying stops being normal. It becomes unusual. And unusual things attract attention, judgment, and eventually, rules against them. Now, the counterargument Americans often make is weather, and it deserves a fair answer. America is climatically diverse. The Pacific Northwest is famously wet, the Midwest has brutal winters. There are genuinely many days in many regions where outdoor drying is not practical. This is true. But it does not explain everything. Germany has cold, wet winters and dryer ownership under 30%. Canada has harsher winters than most American states and historically far lower dryer dependence. Japan has a full rainy season every summer. None of these climates produce the complete cultural abandonment of outdoor drying that America has. And consider this: Phoenix, Arizona gets 310 sunny days per year. Los Angeles averages around 284. Families in these cities, with ideal outdoor drying weather almost every day of the year, still run electric dryers as their default and only option. Weather explains some of the gap in some regions. Culture explains far more of it everywhere. So what is changing? Starting in the early 2000s, a coalition of environmentalists, consumer advocates, and ordinary Americans began pushing back against clothesline bans. They called it the Right to Dry movement. Their argument was simple: prohibiting someone from using free solar energy to dry their clothes, in the name of neighborhood aesthetics, is environmentally destructive and economically punishing to the households who feel the electricity bill most sharply. Several states responded. As of today, 19 American states have passed right-to-dry laws that prevent HOAs from banning outdoor clotheslines. Florida was the first, back in 1995. Colorado, Vermont, Hawaii, and others followed. In these states, no HOA document can legally stop you from hanging your laundry outside. But 19 out of 50 states still means 31 states with no protection. And even where the laws exist, they change rules faster than they change culture. You can make clotheslines legal. Making them feel normal again takes longer. So here is what this all adds up to. Americans do not dry clothes outside primarily because of something that happened in the 1950s when the clothes dryer was successfully sold as a symbol of prosperity and the clothesline was successfully reframed as a symbol of poverty. That cultural shift was then locked in by HOA rules governing tens of millions of homes, reinforced by suburban architecture that built no outdoor drying infrastructure, and sustained by social norms that have persisted for 70 years. The result: one of the most expensive and energy-wasteful domestic habits in the developed world, billions of dollars a year in electricity. To dry clothes that the sun will dry for free. Because somewhere between 1950 and 1960, an American suburb decided that wet laundry on a line looked poor. The clothesline did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because someone decided it was something to be ashamed of. And once something gets coded as poverty in America, it takes generations to make it look normal again. The most ordinary things in daily life are almost always shaped by the most extraordinary cultural forces. Like and subscribe. There is a lot more of this hiding in plain sight.